the fearful avoidant attachment style just has such an impact on so many areas in your life, so many things that are going on in your body, in your mind. Um, and a lot of them, you probably think that that's just you, and you don't think that those things will be able to go away. And they might. They actually might. So there were so many things that just went away as I healed the fearful avoidant attachment style. And some I worked on specifically, so that wasn't too much of a surprise. But some I just realized looking back, I was like, hey, I don't have this anymore. Wow, that's so freeing. That's so good to be free of that. So I just want you to know what is in store for you and what you can expect down the road as you heal the fearful avoidant attachment style. So let's get into it. The first one, perfectionism. Poof, it's a big one to start with. But I definitely used to be such a perfectionist, and because of that, procrastinate like crazy, because it either had to be perfect or I could just better not do it to keep the control. If you just don't do it, then at least you know you're messing it up instead of really trying and then failing and not being perfect. So the perfectionism definitely kept me from doing so many things I wanted to do. And it was actually one of the first things I started healing, and one of the first things that started fading. And it really helps. It's just so freeing to know that there isn't really anything that can go wrong when you make mistakes and when it's not perfect. And it really is true that it is better done than it being perfect. Um, so yeah, it's just really freeing to not have that pressure of having to be perfect and wanting to be perfect all the time. And I still have remnants of it, but what stays when you heal the fearful avoidant attachment style is that you do have high standards, and that's not a bad thing. That can give you a lot, that can bring you far in life, in the sense of it can give you such a rich life. So not in terms of success or whatever society sees as success, but just for you to create a life that is truly fulfilling for you. So perfectionism is a major one that got so much better, if not completely healed, by healing the fearful avoidant attachment style. And then the second one, which I kind of like realized not too long ago. I mean, I realized this before, but I just don't get triggered anymore. And it's crazy to say this, because I so remember when I was in the crash state of my fearful avoidant attachment style, which is 10 to 12 years ago now, so it is a long time. But that lasted for about 5 or 6 or 7 years. I got triggered by everything. I mean, Aryan, my now husband and boyfriend, would just have to look at me in a wrong way that I deemed a wrong way, and I would be triggered, and I would get so annoyed, or I would get angry, or I would just completely deactivate, shut off, want to be by myself, and I did not know what was happening. I had no idea. I just knew what I was feeling in the moment, and that was that it was all his fault. And it wasn't. Obviously, it wasn't his fault at all. I was just triggered. And what could happen if he would just say something completely, how do you say that? He totally only meant good with it. Um and I just took it the wrong way, or it triggered the fear of failure within me, or the fear of being dumb, or the fear of being rejected. Again, I did not know that at that time. I could just close off and be closed off for days and weeks. Usually it was about 2 weeks that I was closed off. And what I mean by that is that I would have just tension in my body. I would go inward. Sometimes I could not even physically speak anymore. I could not physically get words out of my mouth. So we just came up with a hand sign that we could do, that I could do, to show him that I just couldn't physically speak anymore. And I thought that all had to do with the relationship, and the relationship was wrong, but that's such a clear sign of trauma. And that could last, not the not speaking, that would usually last about a day, which is still really, really long. But the being closed off and not being able to open up again, that would definitely take about 2 weeks. And as I started healing the fearful avoidant attachment style, it just got less and less. And instead of 2 weeks, it would take 1 week, and then it would take a few days, and then it would take one day, and then it would take a few hours. And that, even just that, was such a relief, or such freedom for me, but also for Aryan, for my husband, because he was less and less afraid to say something wrong that would trigger me. And now I realize that I don't get triggered anymore. Even the things that were really triggering, um, like him making a mistake, or him actually hurting me, saying something that is actually hurtful, that would trigger me so much, and that would trigger rage. And now, the other day or a few weeks ago, he said something, and I thought, whoa. A few years ago, I would have gone off now and be closed off afterwards, and not wanting to talk to him, and feeling like I was completely right in that. And my natural reaction, without even trying now, was just, oh yeah, just, and not laughing it off, and like sweeping it under the rug, but it just didn't bother me anymore. And that isn't to say I can hear your fear brain saying, well, don't you just get walked over? And just to be clear, Aryan is like the nicest guy in the world. He is such a sweetheart. Um, so he would never like really say mean things, or um, be degrading or whatever. Uh, if he would, I would put up really, really clear boundaries. And I feel so comfortable in expressing my needs now, and setting up boundaries, and I know that that's healthy and that's normal. And that helps a lot in not being triggered anymore, and being able to just brush it off, and or to just let it go, not brush it off, but just let it go. And also, I found safety in myself, instead of wanting to control everything around me. So also him, and the way he spoke to me and made me feel. I always felt like he made me feel certain things. And now I know that he just triggered things inside me, and those triggers are my responsibility. So now I've worked really hard, but I'm pretty much trigger free. And I cannot tell you, I do want to, but I don't think I can explain how freeing that is. It's like I don't walk on a minefield anymore, being afraid that I could get triggered by anything anybody says, not just my husband, but anybody around me. So yeah, it's really freeing to know that it's not me. I can express my boundaries, or a set of boundaries. I can express my needs, and I'm safe either way. Whatever happens, I'm safe. And that's, I so wish that for you. All right, this is going to be a real long video, so I'm going to go through the rest a little bit quicker. And the third one is the fear of feelings. I used to be so afraid of whatever feelings I had. I wanted the positive feelings, and when they were there, I was actually afraid that they would leave. So I wanted to hold on to them more and more and more, and I wanted to feel them more intensely. And I was just so afraid of the negative feelings, because I assigned so much meaning to them, and I had complete stories around them, what they meant. And living like that was like living at war within my own body, because I was just trying to control something that cannot be controlled and is not meant to be controlled. Your feelings are just something that passed through you. And I was completely or constantly repressing and suppressing anything I didn't want to feel, and wanting to feel, and checking if I felt the things I wanted to feel. And oh my gosh, the how do you say that, the energy that took to constantly do that was just exhausting. It was so exhausting. Now I live in a body where I am not afraid for any of my feelings. Wait. I I'm totally fine feeling really wonderful things and feeling horrible things. And because of that, there aren't that many horrible things, because the more resistance you have against negative feelings, the more intensely you feel them, and the more they get stuck in your energy system. And now that I am comfortable truly with all feelings, even like the really hard ones like shame and guilt, I can just feel them because I know where they come from. I know that's not me. I am not my feelings. I know they have no meaning. They just want to be felt and released. And I decide my life. I have full control of my life. I'm not a slave to my feelings. And that causes me to be able to relax so much more instead of being so afraid of what feeling will come next. And gosh, I wish that so much for you too. Like all the things that I'm mentioning in this video. The fourth one is the fear of thoughts. So the fear of feelings in my body. I definitely also was at war in my head, in my mind. You might recognize that too. So I also feared thoughts. I just assumed that all my thoughts were true, especially the negative ones, because otherwise why would I think them? Now I know that that's just so not true. um so yeah, the fear of my thoughts also has gone the same as my feelings. My head is a happy place and my body is quite a happy place. The fifth one is chronic fatigue, and that definitely has to do with the fear of feelings and the fear of thoughts, because you create so much resistance, and then resistance creates chronic fatigue. But for me, that came from a few different things. So I did specifically heal this, um, and kind of figured out where it came from, and it was from a couple of it had a couple of different aspects. Also, the fact that I felt like my needs just didn't matter, for instance. So I would get really tired anytime I would not have control over my day. So when we would go out on a day out, um, or I would be with my family, I felt like my needs just didn't matter anymore. And so I got really angry, or I got really fatigued, which was kind of a way of my body protecting me and being able to say, well, I'm really tired, so I can't do this. Kind of like an excuse almost to listen to my needs. Um, so yeah, long story short, chronic fatigue pretty much gone. Well, the chronic fatigue is gone. I mean, I'm tired every now and then, but I think right now I'm just normal person tired, and not definitely not fatigued. I can do anything I want to. Um, the sixth one is waking up with fear and panic and stress. I remember waking up, the moment I woke up, like there would be maybe half a second of nothing, and then it was like a switch went on, and I felt this intense fear in my chest, and a jolt. Like I had to be awake immediately, and I would start worrying and start having doubts about my relationship immediately, and that was such a shitty way to wake up. Totally not relaxed and rested, which is such a far cry from how I wake up now usually, um, which is just waking up whenever my body feels rested. I used to sleep until noon almost every day because I was just so tired, and then sleep again in the afternoon. And like having an appointment at 10 o'clock in the morning, that would be so early for me that I would just um, not want to go for weeks in advance. And now I just naturally wake up between 7 and 8, and I just feel rested, and kind of happy thoughts or grateful thoughts just flow into my mind naturally. And this is so important because I always feel like I had to battle this. I had to, if I ever did get better, I had to work on it, and I had to keep at it. And sure, there is an aspect of, focusing on the positive, but there are so many things now that just happen automatically because I've healed them. And that's where EFT, the emotional freedom technique, is just so amazing in, because it really clears it and heals it in your body and in your energy system, so it isn't there anymore. So it can't happen anymore. And yeah, so automatically different thoughts enter your head, different things happen. It's magical. Okay, next. The seventh one is nightmares. I used to have such terrible nightmares. And yeah, that's gone. That's gone. And I think, while we're dreaming, we're kind of like processing the day. And if there's an undertone of fear to your whole day, to your whole life, it's gonna come out in your dreams too. And so that will be nightmares. And yeah, I healed that and don't really have nightmares anymore. I can't remember when I last had that. And that's really good. The eighth one is a fear of anger. I realize now that I used to do so much, or actually not do so much, didn't do so much because of being afraid that other people will be angry. So I would adapt and adapt and adapt and hide and not do things and not go out into the world because I was just afraid that other people would get angry. And now I wouldn't say this one is 100% released, but I think there's also just a human aspect to anger. Can be physically threatening, obviously. But I now am, let's just say, so much less afraid. And I can see it in perspective that when somebody gets angry, it's never about me. It's not even mostly not about me. It's never about me because there's always a kind and compassionate way to react. So when somebody doesn't react that way and reacts in an angry way, that's because they're dealing with stuff. And I am fully in my right to put up boundaries. I am not less worthy because somebody is angry. And it doesn't even mean that I actually made a mistake if somebody is angry and they believe that I've made a mistake. And this is just so far from what I used to believe years ago. When somebody was angry, that would just mean that I messed up. It was all my fault. I should feel really guilty. I'm a bad person and I should do everything in my power to make it right again. And that is just, now I can't even really imagine going through life with that belief system because it just uh, it makes life feel like a minefield again. And I guess that's what a lot of fearful avoidants tend to feel, right? That it's that life is kind of like a minefield in a way. So yeah, that's gone. The fear of anger and it has having to do anything with me, that's definitely gone. And that's so freeing. That is so incredibly freeing. Then nine is resistance. So like I said, that definitely also led to chronic fatigue. But I feel like I resisted everything. I resisted my feelings. I resisted my thoughts. I resisted people wanting things from me. People expecting things from me. I felt like so many people were expecting so many things, and I felt resistance to all of that because I didn't want to do the things I thought they expected me to do. Um, so I just spent a lot of my life in resistance, which meant that I would just sit on the couch and not really do anything. Um, yeah, it was not that was not a happy time in my life. I wanted to do so many things, and I kind of stopped myself in my tracks because of all the resistance that came up. And the thing is that the way I felt like I had to deal with that was push through. And now I know that that is absolutely the opposite of what you should do with resistance, which is also what we go into in the online program, because resistance is a big topic that you will run up against a lot probably in your life and also in healing. So in the online program, there's actually a whole pathway about resistance and how to heal that. And that will free up so much energy for you. That will give you so much control back over your life. You don't have to force, you don't have to push. Resistance is not a bad thing. Absolutely not. There's just a different way to go about it and to work with it instead of against it, and to figure out why you're resisting it, and be kind to yourself. And that will just give you so much. And also just tapping on it, which clears the resistance, so that you can just take action without forcing and pushing and exerting so much energy in the process. The 10th is dreading life. I had such a negative view of what the rest of my life was going to be like. Um, and I didn't even really know, because that was just what I was so used to. But I just thought life was supposed to be suffering and working hard and feeling anxious and trying to control everything and trying to be perfect and never feeling enough and never feeling like I did it right or good enough. Oh man, again, I cannot imagine anymore. Um, just seeing that future. I mean, that alone would cause me to feel depressed and fatigued right now. I mean, what are you living for then? You know, if the future just seems so bleak. So please, I am here to tell you that that completely changed. I now see the future only as beautiful and hopeful, and I cannot wait to see what's happening and what's going to happen, because I know I am so much more in control of what my future looks like. I know I'm here to play and to have fun, and I feel safe in myself, in my body, in my world. And that means that there's just so many more adventures and beautiful moments that are waiting to happen. So I'm looking forward to the rest of my life, and I really wish that for you too. And that is possible. No matter what you think the future will look like now, it can look so different. You can allow yourself to see it so different in even a couple of weeks or a couple of months. The 11th one, we're almost there. Last two ones. The 11th one is a knot in my chest. I just always felt like there was this really tight knot in my chest. And now I know that was fear, a fear knot. And that is just gone. I had trouble breathing actually. I had hyperventilation because of that. And now my chest just feels relaxed. And it has a lot to do with allowing feelings and not being afraid of feelings anymore. But yeah, it definitely allows me to relax, to feel my feelings more um, peacefully, and it feels good to have an open chest. I'm kind of like feeling it to see if I can explain it any better. But yeah, the knot is just gone. It's gone. And then the 12th one is always being cold, which kind of sounds like a random one, but I used to always be cold. Even when the weather was quite nice, I would have socks in my shoes and not have exposed ankles because uh, that would be too cold for me. I always had a winter coat on even when the weather was way too warm for that. And that is actually a sign of trauma, and I talked about that in a previous video, that when you have a really hard time regulating your temperature, especially feeling cold all the time, that is a sign of stored trauma in the body. And as I healed, I got better at regulating my temperature, and now I'm just in a normal way able to regulate my temperature, which is nice because I can enjoy nice weather way more, and I don't panic when I step outside and I didn't bring enough clothes or a scarf or whatever. I used to completely panic when that would happen. And now I just know that my body can warm itself. And yeah, it's not an issue anymore. So many things are just not an issue anymore. And I can totally understand how that's almost hard to believe when you're so in it. And what I wish for you if is that you would just experience that in it, even if it's just in a couple of things, because then you know that that's possible, and that will give you so much more power and motivation to really heal and to really release, because it's safe to heal, it's safe to be on this other side, it's safe to release all these things and not have them anymore. um so yeah, I'm really happy you were here. This is what we'll do in the online program, obviously. Check the link in the description below to find out more about the online program and all the different ways in which it will help you heal all these weird little things that are actually having quite an impact in your life right now, but you can be free of, and just relaxed and happy, and look forward to the rest of your life. I really do wish that for you. So happy you were here. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one.